going on, everybody? Welcome to the White Sox Just Did What podcast. No need to adjust your screens, your phones, your iPads, your televisions. My usual co-host Harry is not with me today, but in his place, we got Vince. What's going on, man?
What's happening, Jay?
Feeling good.
I'm here to bring some levity, some actual truth to the show.
Okay.
I'm replacing Harry, who usually handles one half of that, but very short on the truth. So I'm gonna step in and try to see if I can fill his big shoes with the levity side. But I'm definitely bringing some facts.
Okay. We gonna test the facts out. We gonna see what's what. One South Side fan, one North Side fan. We'll see how it go. Pretty much though. So last week when we sat down and we talked, we discussed the White Sox offensive utility, really. And that offensive utility has definitely led the Sox down a pretty dastardly road. They've essentially tied a record that no team really should ever want to tie.
Let's talk about it.
Through the first 16, I know you're enjoying this right now. I understand. Through the first 16 games of the season, even though the Sox have now played 18, through the first 16 games of the season, the White Sox have been shut out 6 times. 6. That is admittedly awful. The only other team that's been shut out that many times are the Brooklyn Superbas, Super Base. However you should pronounce it.
I could have sworn there was a car named after that back in the 70s, 80s, a Subaru or something like that.
Man, listen, when you tie a record like that and the team that owns it is the Brooklyn Superbas, like, come on, man. Brooklyn done the team that used to play in Brooklyn now plays in LA called the Dodgers. So that's how far back we going. That lets you know we in deep waters right now, scary hours right now for the White Sox to be at that point. So, but on a positive note, right, the Sox actually did pick up another win. So, we trending upwards, we moving.
That's 2.
We got positive things, 2 since the last episode, right? I mean, the White Sox had a doubleheader today. They played the Kansas City Royals. They did not get shut out, so we still holding strong, still moving in a good direction. Sox lost the first one of the doubleheader 4-2, won the second half of the doubleheader 2-1. So again, offensively, this team has a long road ahead, right? They've obviously got a big room for growth that they've got to work on. A lot of players on this squad right now, there's 6 guys who I could name that are all hitting below 200. So once again, offensively, this team is hurting, right? They're definitely hurting offensively. But again, when you play a team like the Kansas City Royals, who are honestly one of the better teams within this division, you get a split with them. Hey, man, I got to look at the positive. That's a positive. Give me your thoughts.
Yeah, they're definitely hurting for runs. They're hurt in the disabled list, injured list rather, section as well. The Sox got it's not really any direction they can look to for offense right now. They did just bring in Tommy Pham. He's used to some big hits, maybe getting them sent to his jaw or delivering them. Let's see if this infielder can actually defend his face and put up some offense other than the last infielder that just went to Miami.
I don't appreciate that Tim Anderson shade right there. I don't appreciate that. TA was my guy.
It is shade. You're right. It is shade. I was about to say it's not slander. It's shade. You're correct.
The truth hurts. I understand.
Yes. It hurts, but not as much as that fist did. I want to backpedal, go back to that record a little bit. According to StatHead, the White Sox, the 2024 White Sox, are just one of 10 teams to start the season with a 2-14 record. 4 teams since 1907 have had a worse start to their first 16 games. Most recent being the 2003 Detroit Tigers. They started 0-16, I believe. So the Sox are better than them. So they're not. It's not
Amen.
all bad. Not
Amen.
all bad. But I did see that the Sox they've been in a no win situation 6 different times already in the first, what you said, 18 games.
Yeah, now 18 after today's doubleheader.
It will need to pick up, or it is going to be a very bad situation moving forward. And I'll let you take the reins at that point, as far as the end of season situation that this can put the Sox into.
Oh man, because truthfully speaking, again, as we've stressed on previous shows, we got a long road to hoe, right? I mean, it's going to be a tough one in the season. We see where it's already trending, so we're going to take the positives where we can take the positives, but we can't ignore the negatives, right? So this team is, regardless of what they say on the South Side, regardless of what comes out of that building, they're rebuilding, right? They are rebuilding. They don't want to use the word rebuilding. I'm gonna use it for them. You're rebuilding on the South Side, okay? And with that rebuilding, look at the positive players that you have, right? From a pitching standpoint, Garrett Crochet, again, I'm going to bring his name up once more. His outings have been positive outings. Nick Nastrini, who got his first major league start for the White Sox.
You all acquired him from the Dodgers last season, right?
Correct. Last season, we picked him from the Dodgers. Exactly. Look at you bringing facts. Like you said, I'm going to give you credit, Northside fan. I'm going to give you credit for that.
Had him last year in the Dodgers in that fire sale trade. So, yeah, made his major league debut. Pitch split was pretty solid. 39 fastballs, 4 seams. Changeup, 18 of those. Sliders, 15 of those. 2 curveballs. I like that pitch mix. I like that pitch mix up. That's pretty solid work right there. What I really like, the swings and misses. I love pitchers who miss bats. Please, miss bats. Like, it's great to ground someone out into a double play. Wonderful. It's great to, ground them out to first base. Wonderful. But if you're missing bats, hey, man, I love to see it. He had 20 swings and misses on his 4-seam fastball. That's positive. When you're throwing 39 of them, you're getting 20 swings and misses on that. Positive, man. I like to see it. Kudos to Nick Nastrini coming in his first start, getting work. First inning, 1 through 3 inning, doing work, collecting his first strikeout right out the gate. Striking out my man from Kansas City. What's my man name? Bobichette. Was it Bobichette? I think he struck out. No, not Bobichette. Trying to think of my man from Kansas City name. But trust you to know it more than I would trust myself.
But no, ultimately, I want to give him credit for coming in and doing some real solid work. The pitchers on the White Sox are really the guys that's carrying this team forward. So credit to him. Credit to Eric Fetty, who pitched today's second half with a doubleheader today. Again, another guy, 5 innings of work. No earned runs given up. So again, I want to salute the players that are doing positive things, that are actually performing to a level of competency, and that are doing a job that they're paid to do, right? I mean, I gotta give credit where credit is due and where it's available in a season that is going to be admittedly a rough season, right? So credit to those guys. But it's tough sledding for guys offensively on this squad, just to backpedal on that one more time. So if we
yeah, go ahead.
No, you're good. If we start looking at guys, Eloy Jimenez, I know he just came back from injury. My man's not even batting 150. Tough. Andrew Vaughn, again, his name is going to keep being brought up. We brought it up last week. 160. Come on, man. Like, I can go on and on and on and on and on. Lopez, 150. Like, this is this is bad work. Like, this is bad work. It has to improve. It has to get better at some way. Robbie Grossman, another guy, 50, like, or excuse me, 188. Like, guys aren't hitting their weights right now, and it's unacceptable. And it's why this record is where it is. It's why you currently have a team that's 3-15. It's why you have a team that was shut out 6 times in their first 16 games of the season. It's why you have a team that, at the rate that they're going, may end up with one of the worst records in the history of the sport, potentially. And unfortunately for them, they may not have a high enough draft pick to show for it. So not a lot of avenues or areas for growth, for improvement in the short term. Again, like you mentioned, they just picked up Tommy Pham.
Mm-hmm.
So
I just looked at this. Tommy Pham, I didn't realize he's 30, about to be 36 years old.
Yeah, man, he's no spring chicken, bro.
Yeah, I mean, he was on the NL winning Diamondbacks last year. I did not realize he was that old. He would probably be the oldest when he is eventually elevated from the minors. I don't think that they signed him for $3 million with incentives to not promote him at some point.
Oh no, he's getting promoted quickly. They're just going to let him sit in the minors, get his legs underneath him. He'll be up here probably by the end of the week or next week.
Makes sense. But I think he'll probably be the oldest player on the team. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, I want to say that you're right. He might have competition from
Martin Maldonado.
Guy.
He's older.
I was just going to say he's an old dude.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, a quick segue on him. I don't know what happened when they picked him up from Houston, because he seemed to be a good defensive catcher in Houston. We knew he couldn't hit. Mm-hmm. That was understood. But defensively, what is going on with that guy? Like, he's not blocking pitches at the plate. He's costing these pitches. There are wild pitches that are being assigned to these guys that are truthfully his fault. Like, mm-hmm. And it's bad. Real bad. But you about to get me started on him, and I'm about to lose it. So
while we're already talking about offense, yeah, we can talk about defense in a second. But other than all those names you named, that's not basically just not connecting with their batting average, as you said. But the thing that I've been noticing is that there's not a lot of plate discipline from Garfal's team. You've got 8 guys with a double-digit strikeouts so far. Mm-hmm. That's not gonna cut it out. The leader of the clubhouse, no pun intended, Andrew Vaughn, one of those Drews. He's got 16 strikeouts and he's batting $172. Obviously, yeah. We got another. Like I said, it's 8 guys from everyone on down. Strikeouts happen, especially in this day and age, where it's just everything's about exit velo and hard connect.
True,
but when you've got 8 guys that's already struck out 10 times and everybody's got more strikeouts than hits right now. Well, no, everyone.
Just about everybody has more strikeouts than hits. Yeah.
Only one player has more hits than strikeouts, and he's been hurt for a week now. Yoan Moncada, the only player on the team right now with more hits than strikeouts. Mm-hmm. That's bad offense.
It's bad offense, man. And again, I mentioned Yoan prior to him getting hurt that he was actually performing, right? Mm-hmm. And I wanted to give him his brief flowers because he's a guy who has, in my opinion, Yoan's got a ton of talent. Just a matter of, work ethic, commitment. How bad does he really want to maximize what his gifts are? Mm-hmm. He's been a player who's been criticized at time for loafing. He's been a player who's been criticized at time for taking whatever little nagging minor injury that he may or may not have and exacerbating it out to something major and sitting out more than is what's required. So he's definitely been criticized for those things and the amount of effort that he puts in. But he was off to a positive start. So it would have been nice to see him continue that forward. But of course, he got hurt and injuries happen. But injuries happen to this team a lot at a high rate. And they've happened to key players and they've happened to the best offensive players on this team. So again, that has a trickle down effect to the entire roster when you lose two of your best hitters, two of your best players. You lost Aloy. Aloy is now back, but Aloy has to get into a rhythm once more. Who knows how long that could take?
Yeah.
And he's your designated hitter. You never want to see him in the field, so he's going to be your designated hitter, of course. And how long does it take him to find his swing once again? So again, man, it all contributes to bad offense. It all bleeds into one another and just is just one big cluster. You know what?
Yeah. You had started going down that path. What lies ahead for the White Sox if they continue being bad? Obviously, there's nothing stopping the White Sox from being bad this season. They're going to be bad.
They're
It's just
going to be
how
bad.
bad.
Yes.
But what is right above, right on the other side of that horizon when you get towards the end of the season and draft time?
So the White Sox, due to changes in the CBA, right? The White Sox, who are in a major market, get criticized for don't always behaving like a major market organization or baseball team, but the White Sox are in the major market of Chicago. Based on the CBA rules, teams within major markets or teams that contribute to revenue sharing, if you're in the lottery 2 consecutive years in a row, you're not going to reap the benefits of the lottery pick. So the White Sox currently in this year's draft, 2024, I believe they're going to pick either 4th or 5th. So based on their drafting this year, they're not going to be eligible to draft number 1 next year. So currently on the pace they're on right now, they're going to lose well over 100 games. They might set the record for futility in terms of win-loss record. We could be looking at a team losing 110, 115, and they're not going to have a number 1 pick to show for it.
What's the record for losses?
Again, we're looking at a team right now that no matter what their record is, at the end of the day, even if they do set the record for all-time losses, they're not going to be able to pick in the lottery. So that means no top 2, 3, 4, 5. No, the highest the White Sox will be able to pick in next year's draft will be 10th based on the new CBA. So you could do all this losing, right? You could lose 120 games this season, and the highest you're going to pick in next year's draft is 10th. That's a tough pill to swallow if you're in the White Sox organization and you're looking at this CBA rule currently and saying, just on the horizon of this season next year, we're not going to have a lottery pick. We're going to get bypassed. That's got to be painful, right? Because the carrot that would normally be there in other years, it would be that number 1 pick, right? It would be whomever that top college pitcher is. It would be whoever that top bat is coming out of college that teams would typically be salivating over to bring in right away into their system. The Sox are not going to have that opportunity. And that's a detriment to your organization when, again, even though they don't want to say it, I'm going to say it. You're in a rebuild. So you need talent, and you need talent in every way that you can possibly find it. And the draft is one of the best ways to accumulate talent. Now, it may take some time for that talent to grow and for that talent to develop. But anytime you're drafting a player, like we see this with the Bears coming up next week, you get the chance to pick first, you'd rather pick first than not. Right?
True.
If you have the opportunity to have the number 1 overall pick, give it to me. I want it. I don't want to have to pick 10th if I can pick first. I don't want to have to see 9 other players go off the board ahead of me and there's nothing that I can do about it, even though I know we just lost more games than anybody. So, like I said, tough pill to swallow if you're in that White Sox organization right now. If you're in guaranteed rate, if you're Chris Getz and you're sitting back in your office and you're looking at your roster, if you're Pedro Grafal and you're sitting back in your office and you're looking at this roster and you're saying, "Oh man, we're losing at an unprecedented clip. We got loss after loss after loss, and then when next season rolls around, we don't even get the first pick. Maybe it could be a transcendent player next year, and we won't have a shot at it. Tough, painful."
When you lose as many games as the Sox are going to lose, you definitely need all the handouts you can get. But before we go too far, this is the second shout out to those Detroit Tigers. So, but the 2003 Tigers, they set a record for 162 game season for losses. They lost 119. True or false?
Ooh.
Do the 2024 White Sox lose 119 games?
Oh man. The Sox fan in me wants to say that's false. Right?
Mm-hmm. The Cub fan in me wants to tell you that it's going to happen.
I'm pragmatic though. I've been accused of being very pragmatic in my years and my days. So can I see this team losing more than 119? Yes. Yes, I can see that happening. It's not a stretch to say that they're on that trajectory right now. Right? I mean, we're in the middle of April. You played 18 games. You've barely won 3. Right? Barely. I mean, by when the calendar flips, how many games could they win by the time the calendar flips to May? I mean, these are questions that I ask myself, and it's not a pretty thought when I think about it. So again, the fan in me says no chance. The real hard pragmatic view, when I step back and I take my Sox hat off, says that, yeah, man, you might be looking at a team right now that could be one of the worst teams in sports, not just in baseball, in sports, especially in Chicago sports. And Chicago's has some bad teams, including the team including the team that you support. I mean, we've seen our teams have down years and have bad years. So this may be one of the worst years ever. So
we talked about handouts and how the White Sox are desperate. They need the best options available at free agency, trades, draft, obviously. But the Major League Baseball draft is not like other drafts. You find Hall of Famers all over the place. It's baseball, true. And then another step is taken while it's in the minors. I just want to run down some names of former number 10 picks that have been taken over the years. Mark McGwire.
Steroid user Mark McGwire. Go ahead.
Allegedly. No. It's not alleged. He admitted it. You're right. Steroid abuser. Yeah. Your boy, White Sox great Robin Ventura, was drafted number 10 in 1988.
Shout out to Robin Ventura. Terrible manager for the White Sox, but damn good player.
Yeah, pretty good player. Sox need a lot of pretty good players.
Yes.
A lot of pretty good, healthy players on top of that. Madison Bumgarner, maybe a Hall of Famer, maybe. I don't know. I wouldn't put him in the Hall.
Yeah, I could see a case either way, but I'm inclined to agree with you that I wouldn't put him in the Hall.
Yeah, he's a big game pitcher. If there's a separate playoff Hall, put him in there.
Put him in there. Strictly for playoff performances, yes, he'd be in there. Shout out to Mad Bum.
Another former White Sox, Carl Everett, number 10 draft pick in 1990.
Big props to Carl Everett, bro. Like
Tim Lincecum is another name. John Garland. I'm sure you remember that one.
Hey man, I actually was a fan of John Garland, bro. Like for real. Yeah,
Yeah.
continue with that. I wouldn't mind having a John Garland on this team right now if I could take him. But go ahead. Who
Yeah.
next?
Let's see some other names on here. Eric Chavez, Tim Simmons from the Cardinals. That's a long time ago. Let's see, Carlos Pena. Yeah, Carlos Pena. He's a decent player. Ben Sheets. Ben
Mm,
Sheets used to irritate me back
yeah,
NL days. Let's see. Those are pretty much all the notable names. Can I ask you one question?
fire away. Let's get it.
What do those names all have in common?
I would say what they all have in common is that none of them were immediately thought of as being the top number one generational quote unquote prospect.
That's probably true. I was looking for none of them are in the Hall of Fame.
I mean, well, yeah, they're not, but and I
None of
wouldn't
them,
say many
none
of
of them
them
will be.
deserve to be in either, but
No.
to me, that's where I look at it. So you can be drafted 10th, but you can still be a highly productive player, highly productive
Very
player.
much. Yes, of course.
And you can definitely be of value to a team drafted at that spot. So, and that's where the White Sox going to end up picking because they damn sure not picking first.
Some of the number one picks over the years, just a few names. Former White Sox player Ken Griffey Jr. Maybe you heard of him. Chipper
Yeah,
Jones, drafted number one. Joe Mauer, I know you've heard of him.
heard of him. He was a killer for a while. I didn't like seeing that guy at times, but go ahead.
Another one you're familiar with, Harold Baines for the
Oh,
White Sox.
yeah, bro.
Steven Strasburg, Justin Upton, VJ Surhoff, Garrett Cole,
Mm-hmm.
Bryce Harper, Chipper Jones, A-Rod.
There's
The
some Hall of Famers you're naming off right now.
Yeah. So there's a difference between 10 and 1. Yeah, there's a very big difference.
Exactly.
Dansby Swanson. Shout out to the Cubs. So
How he
yeah.
Sneaking
So
in.
you definitely, if there's a way to keep that number one, you definitely. I mean, the history tells it right there. If you want to shout at a Hall of Famer, you want the number one. You can find one later, but do you trust your scouting department to find them at 10?
In every sport, like I mentioned before, in every sport, you want to pick earlier than later.
Mm-hmm.
You always do. No matter if it's NBA, NFL, you want it, the earlier you get a chance to pick, the better, because you get more opportunities at more players. Why would you want the pool of players that you get to choose from to shrink down before you have a chance to pick them? Right? Look at let's again, you got the Bears shirt on. Let's look at the Bears, right? Let's rewind the clock back several years. There was a certain defensive tackle on the board, Hall of Fame potential. Got picked by the, at that point in time, St. Louis Rams.
Defensive tackle? Oh, yeah.
Aaron
Mr.
Donald.
Donald. Yeah.
Aaron Donald was on the board, and the Chicago Bears wanted to draft Aaron Donald. They were desperate, thirsty. They thought they played their cards right. They thought Aaron Donald was going to fall right into their lap and that they'd have the perfect player for them at the perfect time. And what happened? The then St. Louis Rams drafted him, scooped him up. My man's went on to have a Hall of Fame career, Super
Maybe
Bowl, multiple. He might be the GOAT at his spot. Multiple time Defensive Player of the Year winner. Aaron Donald is amazing, right? The Bears ended up selecting Kyle Fuller back at that time. Shout out to Kyle Fuller, right? I mean, he had a couple good years for the Bears. He was more than serviceable at times. Is he a Hall of Famer? Absolutely, positively not. No one would ever argue that he is. But we all know Aaron Donald is a Hall of Famer. Like you said, he might be the GOAT. And I say all that to say that at any sport, again, you want to pick earlier than later. And the Sox are not going to have that opportunity because of the CBA rules and all this losing that they're about to do, they aren't going to be able to benefit from it in terms of having that top pick. I feel like the Carolina Panthers right now.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I feel. seeing that you lost as many games as you did, and knowing that Chicago Bears are going to get your pick, and that they're going to get to pick who we believe might be a damn good player at number 1 overall.
Oh man, this is making me sad, and I'm enjoying it. However, so let's transition. Let's start looking ahead. And before we go into the schedule, because that might make you sad again.
I mean, I've already looked at the schedule, so I know what's on the horizon. I know who is coming into town, and I know who we're going to see. And yeah, there's more L's on the board. So, but yeah, go ahead, let's go.
So let's talk about the future. The future.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned Nick about to butcher his name, Strini. You mentioned
We
Nick
Chicagoans,
Strini.
bro. We butcher every name.
Yes, yeah, we do. So he's gonna see his second career start soon. Hopefully, maybe he can make it to 6 innings so he can get a quality out of it.
I would hope so.
And teams don't have much work on them yet, so possibly there's a possibility that you can get his confidence together, and shit, I mean, you might have found you one.
And I think that's the hope, right? You always hope to have found you one, right? You always hope that whether it's via trade or whether it's via late round pick or whatever the case may be, that you found somebody that becomes that diamond in the rough for you, right? Again, Nastrini, his first start, he showed a lot of potential, right? He had a positive outing. He listed through some of the numbers. I love the swing and miss that I saw in his pitches. I always want to see swing and miss. You make guys miss, you make guys look stupid. That's a good thing. Crochet, same thing with him. Eric Fetty, like I mentioned earlier, same thing with him.
Yeah, I'm gonna need an apology, man, on Crochet at some point. Yeah, he's
Apologies for what?
possibly your best player.
I mean, at this point, he's 100% the best player on the team, regardless of position. But he gets flowers. He gets flowers for sure.
Okay.
Now, if you want to call that an apology, go ahead. I'm not calling it an apology, but we gave him his flowers on the last week's episode. What more do you want from me?
Throw roses at his feet.
No,
Kneel to him.
not doing that. I'm gonna throw roses at Dylan. I'm gonna throw roses at Dylan Cease's feet for the way he packed y'all up last time he pitched. But
he won't do it in the playoffs.
So it's not the show for that. It's not the show for that. Go ahead.
Other than Nastrini left his boy Kosa Montgomery down there, man. You was telling me, I think backstage, that he finally hit a home run. So MLB Prospectus has him as a top 10 prospect, and he's in you guys' farm. And he's shot. He's in AAA, so he's right there. He's waiting. He's waiting to make his debut.
I mean, you heard me mention Kosa Montgomery a few times on this show. Me personally, I'd call him up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and
it might be too early to call him up because service time situation.
So I understand all the service time, and I actually don't disagree with the service time argument or discussion.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm okay with that. But I would call him up whenever he's eligible to do so, to be called up, because my preference, and again, I can't stress this enough, the White Sox don't want to use the term rebuild, but you're rebuilding. And anytime you're rebuilding, my preference is to see more of the young players than less of the young players, right? Show me the young guys that you got in your system. Show me, depending on the publication, the White Sox farm system, because of the trades with the Dodgers, because of the trades with the Padres, has improved greatly from last year to this year. Depending on the publication, they're top 5.
Top 5.
I've seen him as high as, I think Bleacher Report had him as high as 3 or 4. Now, admittedly, I'm a little biased, but admittedly, I want to say that's ambitious. That's and aggressive. I would probably put their system more so closer to the middle of the pack. If it's me, I'm not a baseball scout. I'm just a White Sox fan. But once more, I would prefer to see these guys get their opportunities, right? Put them out there. I'd rather see him struggle on the big league team than him struggle in AAA. If he struggles at all, right? He hit his first home run. Let my man get more opportunities up here with the big league team. Let me see those swings here against real live bullets, right? I'd rather see him get smacked around by the Royals, the Twins, and the Philadelphia Phillies than him against the, Sawtucket nobodies in AAA. Like, that's just my own personal preference. I'm being real with it. I'd rather see him up here. I'd rather see these guys play here, right? Once they get to AAA, bring them up. Because what do you have to lose? You're on pace to set a record for futility. What's the worst that could happen?
So first, they need the space, right? You can only carry so many people in your dugout. I mean, we ain't got to besmirch anybody, but there's a lot of players who can be swapped out. I mean, with a 3-15 record.
3-15 record. That's right.
I mean, anybody can get swapped out, save for Luis and a few others. But he is a shortstop. So who's the everyday shortstop for the Sox right now?
A bum.
All right. we won't say his name. We just say somebody who can be replaced. Colson Montgomery, Mr. Montgomery. Well, he's a kid, so I'll just call him by his name. Colson Montgomery. He's a left-hander. He's 6'3", playing shortstop. That is, he's huge. Pause.
Yeah. No diddy.
For a shortstop. That is, you find the space. You find the space on your 40-man to see what he's got. I mean, Baltimore Orioles, they called up the number one guy according to baseball's perspective. The number one draft.
Called him up last week.
Yeah, called him up last week. No, he was drafted last year, and he's in the majors now. That's how they say, "Hey, let's go." And Baltimore's playing for something.
They're deep. They have a talented squad. He's not even in. I mean, they brought him up. He's batting what, 8th, 9th in their lineup.
Jordan Montgomery started his career 1 of 15. I think he got his first hit yesterday.
Listen, man, in my opinion, bring them up. It's okay if they struggle. You're not in a pennant race, unfortunately, right? You're not playing for your division, unfortunately. So why not? Bring him up. Let me see what he can do. Work out the service time. I mean, we're already in April 17th, right? Honestly, I don't think service time should be an issue any longer, if it even is. But I'd bring him up. I'd bring Oscar Colas back. I mean, again, I've mentioned his name numerous times. Let these guys struggle on this current roster because as it's constructed at the moment, you're not winning anyway. Like, let me see Colson Montgomery over Paul DeJong. Bum. Right? Like Kendrick.
I know who Oscar Colas is, but for those that don't know, who is he?
So Colas is essentially similar to Luis Robert, had a similar path to the big leagues like Luis Robert did, right? Coming out of Cuba. His pathway actually took him to Japan briefly. He was briefly called the Cuban Otani, is a comparison that they gave him, because while he was over in Japan, he was a pitcher as well. So he was pitching and he was hitting as well. So his numbers weren't terrible while he was over there either. But again, Shohei Ohtani is a once in a generation type of player. You know what I'm saying? So it was never realistic for Oscar Colas to continue on that track of pitching and hitting when he got here to the big leagues. And so the White Sox, admittedly, and for what I'll actually give them credit for, did the right thing, and they made him focus on playing the outfield and focus on hitting because that's what he is better at doing. Again, outfielder, primarily he should probably be in right field. You can swing him in center at times as well. A lot of swing and miss in his bat, though. He at times can get, again, he's got some similarities to Luis Robert, where Luis Robert at times can be swing happy. Colas at times also is even a bit more swing happy than Robert. So, and that is one of the primary reasons why he's up and down in terms of his stints with the White Sox versus going back down to Charlotte, their AAA team. So those are things that he needs to get corrected. But once more, he's another one of these talented Cubans. The White Sox, for a time, had the market cornered on young, talented Cuban players. So he's another young, talented Cuban with a lot of potential that needs to be unlocked. One of my criticisms for the White Sox is they don't or have not fully developed their position players that they've had at times, right? It's always been a struggle for them to develop key outfielders, key infielders, guys that they've selected, that they've groomed from low A ball to high A to double to triple A and then to the majors, and have gone on to have long, successful, sustained big league careers. The White Sox have not been able to do that consistently or successfully throughout their tenure. Great job at it with the pitchers, right? I mean, I can name a list of pitchers that the White Sox have brought up and maintained and developed who've gone on to have great careers. Even if they're no longer with the White Sox organization, they've been able to have successful careers elsewhere. So when it comes to the position players, though, it's been a struggle. But again, you asked me about Colas. He's got a lot of talent. He's got a lot of potential. I'd like to see that fulfilled. Can it be? Who knows? But again, I want to see the young guys struggle here as opposed to going through doing homework on them and seeing them struggle in AAA or even thrive in AAA. I mean, they could be thriving in AAA, and that's wonderful and great too. Show me all the successes and the failures here at the big league level, because when you're on pace for losing 120 games, I'd rather see the young kids than see the Paul DeJongs, see the Tommy Phams, see the Martin Maldonados, see a bunch of guys hitting a $150, 172, 188, 113, and having vastly more strikeouts than hits across my lineup.
So AAA is Charlotte. AAA is typically
Charlotte Knights.
AAA is typically where you keep your reserves, the guys that you just don't have space for. But if you're in AAA, you're a major league player. You do your rehab stints there. You get your simulated games.
Facts.
And you promote your best minor league players to AAA just to keep them close, because you feel like, okay, we're going to need you at some point. So Colson, he's in AAA.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just a matter of time. But I do want to talk about the actual best level of minor league ball, where you see all the like really promoted projects. You started rookie ball, get the high A plus, all that stuff, but AA is where it's really at. And
sure. The White Sox AA team, the Birmingham Barons, that's usually where their best prospects sink or swim. Right there is in AA, and that's across really all of baseball. I mean, your AAA team, like you already pointed out in a lot of ways, your AAA team, are guys that are going to be close, guys that are going to, get called up, get sent back down, get called up, get sent back down, have their injury stints and rehabs, et cetera, et cetera. You ran through a lot of that. Your AA team across the majors is going to be the team that really houses your top prospects. But you were rolling. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, I just want to talk about one more guys while we're still on this pipeline subject. Your highest rated player on Birmingham is Drew Thorpe, right-handed pitcher. He's a little
I can see
young.
straight. Yep.
He's a little young. He's what, 20 years old?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 20 years old. I don't know if he profiles as a starter, but if he can be brought up, and I mean he's dominated every rookie level, double A, single A, A+, all those he dominated. Right now for Birmingham, he's 2-0 with a sub-1 ERA. Again, it's early. It's only been 11. He's only pitched 11 innings. So
Right.
that tells me they keep him fresh. Just, go out there, go out there and do some 5 and divers, just get a couple of outs. We're liking what I'm looking at.
Mm-hmm.
If I was to project, I can see him on the big team close to trade deadline. I will put him in a sock jersey maybe a month and a half prior to deadline. And again, I don't know if he projects to be a starter, but if he's just a bullpen guy, if you bring him up and just keep him in the pen, that's when I see him. I see him come up 45 days before the trade deadline as if not to be a part of the project going forward, to sell off.
So, ironically, he's been the guy who's been sold off a couple times. But I believe in our first show, when we kicked things off and we discussed either our first or second, when we did discuss the return for the Cease trade, we did discuss Drew Thorpe and his projection, I believe, is as a starter. And yeah, like you mentioned, he's been doing some positive things in Birmingham, and he did positive things in his previous stint with the Padres organization. So he's on a positive track. And I also mentioned as well that I did think so. I'm aligned with your thinking, right? I do think that there's a potential for him to be up this season with the Sox, not in a starter's capacity, fresh out the gate, but as a body who can come in and say, hey, bring in Thorpe. Let's see if he can get a couple of outs. Let's see if he can, close down a third of an inning for us or something like that, and then sit him back down. Yes, I can see that as a potential possibility as early as this season. If not this season, then for certain next year. Definitely something that I can see, and definitely something that we even touched on briefly in a previous show. Watch the show, people.
Yes, definitely watch the show. You're gonna get your tidbits and all your rah for the South Side hitman, as long as they are on the South Side. So
They stand on the South Side. Let's chill.
South of Madison, maybe, but
Hey.
South Side, I'm not certain.
Come on now.
Come on. So last thing about, so you want to keep the energy up, want to keep the good feelings. Another thing, and this is probably because I'm a Cub fan. I've noticed that the Sox are drawing pretty well for them. They're not bottom of the league in attendance. They are 10th in attendance, and I've noticed the home opener had 33,000 there. It's not a sellout, but it's a good number.
Sure.
Obviously, it drops the day after, and it continues to drop after that. So it's no big deal. Everybody does that. But home openers are crucial. They drew 33,500. The next game was 28. So good numbers. This last homestand, it was not bad. No, you had every game was over 10,500. Put it like that. So plus there are people coming out to watch. There are people still, even though you've started off 3-15, you got a long way to go, and no one has abandoned the squad yet. Kudos to that.
I mean, listen, man. Um, we got to give Sox fans credit, right?
Mm-hmm.
We got to give Sox fans credit. Again, White Sox fans aren't just sliding to the ballpark to get drunk. They aren't just sliding to the ballpark just to, hang out and take pictures in front of shrubbery, right? White Sox fans aren't just going out there just to, tag a location and say that they visited a tourist spot. Um, I'm, going down to guarantee rates. It's not meant to be just a, quick little tourist trap vacation spot, right? We're going to see a baseball game. We're going to see a product on the field.
What kind of product?
So I said a product. I didn't
Oh,
necessarily
a
say it
product.
was a good product, right? I didn't necessarily say it was going to be a positive product on the field. I just said a product,
A product.
right?
Right.
A product, right?
That's a great
Right.
description of the
So
Sox. A product.
thank you, I try. But yeah, man, like there's a bit of apathy as it relates to the White Sox organization that's directed at the owner, that's directed squarely at Jerry. And all of it results in the attendance that you mentioned, right? All of it affects the turnout at the ballpark. All of it affects the ratings on on television. It all sort of feeds into one another, right? Reinsdorf
Mhm.
has in many ways affected the White Sox fan in a negative manner, right? So fans aren't as keen to go rushing to the ballpark at every opportunity. Doesn't mean they won't come. Doesn't mean Sox fans won't step out and visit the games. Again, the food is always good. The in the park experience is always a positive experience. You're gonna get good food, gonna get good drink. Milkshake is bomb. I haven't
The
had it on.
MVP of the Sox so far.
Hey,
The
bro,
milkshake.
listen. That milkshake, everybody talking about it. You know what I'm saying? When I get to a game, I'm
Harry?
gonna have one.
Did Harry get the milkshake while he was there?
Harry was trying to get a different milkshake. So
There you
uh
go.
yeah, yeah. So but the milkshake is definitely the leader in the clubhouse in terms of wins above replacement.
Mhm.
Um and like you said, it's the MVP of the team.
Easy. Easy. Might
But
be might be in the MVP state for the whole league. Why?
hey, listen, I'm a when I get to a game, and I will get to a game, I'm definitely gonna have one of those. Um so yeah, man, Sox fans will come out, they will show and support when the time is right. Time hasn't always been right so far to start this year. And a lot of that blame I put at the feet of ownership. So that might be a longer, more detailed discussion about that guy
Tie game.
and what Sox fans would hope to see happen with that guy. But yeah, attendance in White Sox games is always a topic that fans of a certain North Side team always want to bring up.
I was giving props.
I
I
didn't say
was
you weren't. I didn't say you weren't giving props. Right? Did I say you weren't giving props? I just said that, you know, fans of certain teams that play in a certain building on the North Side usually like to bring up attendance. That's all. That's all I said.
yeah.
Factual
Uh
statements. We're doing factual statements. That's a
that's
factual
correct.
statement.
That's correct. That's right. This is the anti-Harry episode. I had a question. Will the Sox be offering Grubhub? Because I want to know, can I get the milkshake delivered? I don't actually want to actually buy a ticket to go get that. Get
See,
that.
you already know the answer to that question, and the answer to that is no. Right? Um, buy a ticket. Slide into town. Buy a ticket. We'll link
I
up
just
when
want
y'all. We'll link up when y'all come to the South Side.
I just
Everybody,
want I
it's
just want
milkshake.
that product. I don't want that product and the product on the field. Can I just get one of them?
Hey man, I mean they only make a limited quantity. So they only make like about 200 or so milkshakes.
Oh, that's enough. Okay, that's enough.
So as soon as you enter the ballpark, if you want one, go get it ASAP.
Got it. All right. So we pull down the block. We about to pull into the parking spot for the episode. Let's get ready to park it. Coming up for the White Sox, you've got the Phillies, a three game set at
In
Citizen Bank
Philadelphia.
Park. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Um, all-time record for the Sox versus Philadelphia is 13-9 their way. You all lost the season series last season to Philly.
Believe so.
Do you have they announced the pitching matchup so far? I'm not sure.
No, I didn't see it announced just yet.
Philadelphia won't see Nastrini. Doesn't look
Yeah, I
like
didn't think they would. Minnesota is after Philadelphia, so I'm pretty certain Nastrini is going to pitch in that series.
Okay.
Crochet, I want to say Crochet is probably going to pitch. Again, they haven't announced pitching matchups. I want to say Crochet is probably going to pitch either that. He might pitch that second game of that series with Philadelphia. So I want to see how he does, man. I want to see how he looks against the lineup. Again, Bryce Harper hasn't been his typical Bryce Harper self this year so far. Doesn't mean that won't change. I mean, one swing and Bryce Harper can be right back to being a monster. So I want to see him against Bryce Harper. Want to see him against your boy Schwarb still there in Philly, right? I don't think he.
Schwarber just hit his 250th career home run today.
Props to your boy Schwarbs.
Yeah.
Props to him. He went to
Don't do it.
Hey, I was just gonna say he went to a team that was able to use his services. What? I'm not casting any shade over here, bro. Like I
mean, you're right. The Cubs couldn't use him for some odd reason.
Y'all, you didn't want him for whatever reason. My team didn't want him for whatever reason either. I mean, for whatever reason, the White Sox couldn't use a left-handed power hitter who can get you 35 to even 40 home runs when he's really swinging that thing. Pause just in case. I mean, for whatever reason, the White Sox didn't want him. And you guys just told him to pack his bags and clear out his locker one day. So I don't know. But he ended up in Philly, and Philly he's made a home out of. So kudos to Schwartz.
One of the better postseason players in the last 20, maybe even more seasons. I mean, he's a great, as you say, a slugger. So yeah, the Sox got a 3-game set in Philadelphia. Then they hightail it over to Minnesota for their first matchup with those Twins this season, man. So
Minnesota, a team that Ozzie once called the Piranhas.
Why?
Many years ago, because they were literally a pain in our asses, and they were always nipping at our heels when we were ahead of them in the standings. So, and we couldn't shake them. But that's why.
All right. Ozzie's very colorful with the descriptions.
Ozzie's very colorful. So,
the next 7 games, you got 3 with Philadelphia, 4 with Minnesota. Yep. This last week, you had 2 wins. Can the White Sox, do you foresee, you got another start coming from this trainer, you got another start coming from Crochet. Tommy Pham might be up in this 7-game stretch.
He might.
Is there a way you can get 2 wins out of these 7?
Is there a way? Yes.
Do you foresee it?
There is a way. Do I foresee it?
Don't tell me you're getting swept twice now. Don't say that.
Is it an eclipse out right now? Do I need to put on my eclipse glasses? You asking me if I can see it? I don't know how bright the future is. Can I see it? I see 1 win out of the next 7 games.
One win.
I see 1 win out of the next 7 games. I see them grabbing one of those games in Minnesota.
Okay.
Unfortunately,
because Minnesota hasn't been great so far this season either. So,
exactly my point. So I can
They're what?
see, and they're 6-11.
Yeah.
And again, on last week's show, I mentioned how when I talked about how bad the White Sox offense is, and I was rattling off how they're basically 30th in home runs and 30th in RBIs and et cetera, et cetera. The team that they were either right behind or tied with or right above 29th in hits, Minnesota. So the Minnesota Twins this year aren't having a great year themselves. They are a team that has vulnerabilities, much like the White Sox have vulnerabilities. Minnesota is a team that you can win. If you are going to get 2 wins out of the next 7, 2 of those wins can come from Minnesota. I don't necessarily believe you're going to get any wins in Philadelphia. So I'm looking at that Twin series with the team that Ozzie used to call the Piranhas, and I see 1 win for sure. I'm going to predict that they're going to get 1 win out of that series. 2 wins, that's me having my Sox hat on and hoping they can split that series and come back with 2 wins.
Mm. Mm, mm, mm.
But you wanted me to be pragmatic.
No, I said put it on hold 1 second. I want to
Oh,
hear
you just wanted
how.
me to be a flat out fan and be like Harry. Well, then the Sox are sweeping Minnesota.
I don't even think Harry would say
They're
that.
getting 4 straight. We averaging 10 runs a game. We shutting them out 2 out of the 4 games. And at that point, we going on the run. Do my best Harry impression.
Yeah, I don't even think Harry would go that far. I think let's see. I would think Harry would say some of that, but he would stop short of saying they're going on a run. I don't even think he would go that far.
Yeah, because they play the Tampa Bay Rays right after that.
So the Philadelphia Phillies, they right now are currently they are below league average in hits, below league average in batting average as a team. They're batting 231 as a team right now. I think that's still like maybe 10, 15 points higher than the Sox, but still not good.
Still not. That's true.
Let's see what else. Total bases. They're 14th out of 15th in the league in total bases so far. When I say league, I do mean the National League.
I got you.
So, and as far as runs, 14 out of 15, they scored 65 runs. Again, they're not very good comparatively in the National League. However, they scored 65 runs. That's almost double the White Sox have scored themselves. But
Exactly.
I don't think that they're at a place right now where they are at this beginning of the season where it's an automatic sweep. I do think the Sox can mess around and Crochet was going to start one of these games with them. If he is your best player, and if he hasn't been figured out yet, and again, nothing shows me that they know how to put bat to ball yet. Maybe come late August, September, they figure it out. But right now, they're doing a lot of swinging and missing themselves. I don't think I can see them winning 2 games. The third one, that getaway game, that's the one they lose. The Sox can win that one. I'm not putting any money on that. I would not bet that.
Nor should you.
Yes, nor should I. Shout out to Jonte Porter. I can see that 2 wins again, as you said. Minnesota Twins, they're 6-11. I don't need to go deep into their numbers. Philadelphia Phillies, they're 2 games over 500, and they're in the bottom of the National League in a good amount of these offensive stats. So they're there. Go ahead.
No, I was just piggybacking off what you were saying. I mean, again, in a lot of offensive categories, the Phillies aren't raking away, right? I feel like they've gotten off to a bit of a slow start. I already mentioned Bryce Harper isn't his typical Bryce Harper self at the moment, but all it takes is 1 crack at the bat for Bryce to be Bryce again. They've got talent to turn things around quickly. Sox don't have that same level of talent to turn things around quickly. So again, I can see them going to Philadelphia, and the Sox run differential is, oh my gosh, I don't even want to really discuss how bad that run differential is. Let's just say it's
-54. I already know.
See, I was trying to say this in a way that I didn't have to actually bring the number out. But since you went ahead and did it for me, yes, -54. Thank you. Thank you, Vince. I appreciate you adding to my pain.
No problem.
-54 run differential for the White Sox going into Philadelphia. Philadelphia scored, again, as you mentioned, plenty more runs than they have. So it's going to be tough. Do I think Garrett Crochet has been figured out? I do not. But that doesn't mean that there's not a regression coming, right? Like you said earlier, apologize to Crochet. I'm not going to go that far. He deserved flowers for his first 3 outings that he pitched, but there could still be a regression coming. He's still a young guy adjusting to his first true stint and tests in the big leagues. So there's a lot of growth and development that still needs to occur there, and a lot of consistency that he needs to master within his arm. And when you start going in the lineups against guys like Bryce Harper, your boy Kyle Schwarber, you need to be prepared for anything that could happen. And you don't want to make mistakes, because mistakes can result in a crooked number being thrown up against you real quick in an inning, right? I mean, you can all of a sudden, you walk one guy, you throw one bad pitch, all of a sudden that double, that's a home run. Next thing you know, you're down 4-0 in the blink of an eye. So those things can happen. So Philadelphia, tough team, tough week ahead. We'll see what happens. I mean, we'll reconvene. I'll be watching. I'll be watching games. I'll be checking the stats and the numbers to see what these guys are doing. And yeah, man, when we reconvene and huddle back up here next week, we'll see what happens. Go ahead and shut it down. Appreciate you stepping in for Harry. My mans will definitely be back next week. We'll chop it up with him upon his return. Until then, thanks everybody for checking out the White Sox Just Did What podcast. Y'all have a great week.
Peace out.